A lot of people are just looking forward to hearing Cara's presentation, and I'm sure it's definitely well-deserved. In this session, Beyond eLearning, Consultant Skills to Add Value Back to the Organization, Cara will share valuable insights and strategies for using consulting skills to enhance the impact of your e-learning programs and bring greater value to your organization. So I'm perfectly ready for this informative and engaging session, and I'm sure you guys are as well. So now I can see and hear Cara, and I would like to yield the floor to her. Cara, the floor is yours. Break a leg.
Thank you. So really excited to be here and just dive in and talk about something that is a little bit different for this conference, but still something I think is really critical to talk about, especially in today's climate. How can we add value back to the business? So if someone came up to you and said, how do you, as a learning development professional, add value back to the business? What would you say? Now, if you're struggling with that, no worries, I got you. We are going to be in a jam-packed session the next hour together, and we're going to be going through a lot of different activities. And so before we get started, I just want to have a couple of housekeeping things. So you can actually get a copy of the slides and all the activities today if you go to ahaslides.com/iSpring. And when you go over there, I just want to show you what it looks like. It's going to ask you for a name and email address, and that way I know at the end who to send the slides over to. And then you can also engage with the presentation throughout. So if you want to go through and do that, you most certainly can. If you don't want to, that's completely fine as well. I have my iPad open and watching the chat on there as well. So either or doesn't matter to me, but I want to give you the option to play along with us today. All right. So let's just cut to the chase, all right? I don't know about you all, but there are a lot of conversations currently going on in the marketplace about learning and development colleagues across the globe that have been laid off and impacted by various layoffs. And it's a scary time. There's a lot of things out there. There's a lot of uncertainty on the job market. And what I really want to do, though, is I want to flip this, because I am telling you, learning and development professionals, you all have a lot of great expertise and skills that you can bring to actually add value back into the business. But you are going to have to do something besides just content development. And so what we're going to be talking about today are 4 skills that you need to hone to go beyond e-learning, beyond content development, to add value back to your business. If these are the first times that you've heard about these particular topics, no worries, I got you. We're going to practice together. And I was telling the iSpring staff before we went live, I'm really hoping somebody that attends this session wins the social media contest, because you're going to have a lot of different options on things that you can share after this presentation. So as promised, 4 skills. We have an hour to do it, and then we're going to practice them together, okay? So the first skill, I'm just going to hop right into it, is the skill of ideation. All right. And I think so often as learning and development professionals, you have to have a little bit of an itch of creativity. And there's a lot of fantastic ideas out there, but so often we are so backlogged and we have these things called deadlines, and it's really difficult sometimes to really pause and take time to ideate. So if you're curious of what like a working definition of ideate is, we're going to say it's the process of generating new ideas. Okay, so we'll just say it's the process of generating new ideas. And so through doing this, there's a couple of different ways that you can do it. And one thing I really want to kind of challenge you on is thinking beyond the content to what is the content trying to solve? And working backwards from there. What's the problems that we're trying to solve? And how are we supporting people that are doing the work in our organizations that we're giving the content to? And oftentimes, I will tell you, it's not just giving them a PowerPoint. It's not just giving them an e-learning. It's not just giving them a job aid. It really is a holistic idea. And you'd be really surprised on probably some of the solutions that you could come up with if you just took a few moments to ideate. And it doesn't have to take a lot of time and effort. We're actually going to do an ideation activity here in just a moment. But more importantly, I think it's really critical that the work that we do, we serve people. All right. So I like to say we're in the people business. And so in order to really make sure that we are serving people, we really need to hone in on what it is that they need and providing that additional context in addition with the content that we're being asked to provide. All right, well, with that, let's go ahead and do our first little mini warm-up activity, okay? And so if you're logged into the AHA slides, I'm going to be able to see your answers. If not, again, no big deal. I can also watch the YouTube live chat as well, all right? So let's say hypothetically that you get asked about helping someone who's a first-time visitor to a zoo. What would be an idea that you would have for that? So go ahead, I already see people typing, which is wonderful. So if you were asked, okay, somebody who's visiting a zoo for the first time, how would you help them, right? So you get that task come across. What would be some ideas that you have? I'll give you a few moments to do that. All right, awesome. We're on it already. We have some maps. I love the map with bathrooms and animal icons. That is a true pro of someone going to a zoo for sure, because those are probably the two most critical things you need to know at a zoo. Oh, I love this. We already have some audience analysis here. What is it that they're interested in seeing? Yeah, we don't know, right? We have some information here about the environment. So painting a path on the sidewalk, that is incredible. Some different animals, great. Go over safety and security and the norms. I love it. Somebody has risk management on the brain. Incredible. All right. We have, again, a lot of maps, which is wonderful. Tell them your favorite attraction. I love that. A customized approach. You're giving somebody some of your own insight there. That could be wonderful to help. All right, a lot of great things coming on. I'm also looking here at the YouTube chat. Determine the goal. What is it that they want to see from Nicole? Also looks like an interactive video. That's an awesome idea. And somebody said, where's the first aid? So that not going to go a lot into that. That could be good or bad. Ask if there's any disabilities or maybe accommodations that they need. Narrated audio tour. Great. Thank you all so much for participating. I'm going to ask you something. When's the last time you sat down and thought about that with the content you've been asked in your workplace? Maybe you have the time, maybe that you don't, but thank you so much for just going through that, because I think it really gives you an opportunity to just pause and reflect. If anything was possible, what is it that you could create? All right. So I have an activity that I think is really great for this. This is something that I implemented when I led a team in manufacturing, and it comes from user experience. It's called Silly Eights. There's another word for it, but I've changed that first word was silly because I'm not a big fan of the word that's used. And so really in Silly Eights, what you're asked to do is you have I'll have a visual aid here. You have a piece of paper, or I'll give you a slide here in a moment, and you have 8 minutes to come up with 8 different ideas to solve the issue. Incredible. And so what happens when you do that is you get so many different ideas. And just like the example I just showed you with the zoo, look at all the different ideas we came up with about just helping a first-time visitor at the zoo. And how long did that take us to kind of brainstorm that out? It also encourages collaboration. So often, depending on the composition of your learning and development teams, it can feel really kind of isolating. Maybe you're working on a couple projects by yourself, but it really gets the synergy going and really kind of can help boost the creativity levels. Another thing you can do is kind of help you visualize things, right? So it's less abstract, but more of like, okay, what would this actually look like in practice? And then also too, it gives you a lot of different starting points that maybe you could iterate and refine and really come up with a creative solution to the problem that you're trying to solve. So you may be wondering, okay, what does one of these look like? So forgive my artistic ability here, but this is an actual example of one of the Silly Eights that I made in a previous work experience. And so I don't remember the prompt offhand, but as you can see, I came up with some different little examples here of competency-based education, maybe something with a comic, maybe something with a learning journey, keys to success, maybe people earning a key, a 30, 60, 90 plan, etc. And so being able to brainstorm that out really is helpful to, again, think about what is possible beyond just building another e-learning. And going back to the value to the business, if you actually sit down and think about it, goodness gracious, think of all the ways that the business can be engaged in the solutions that you're making. So this is another great way to do that. So it's your turn. So if you would go, you can scan the QR code. It might be cut off a little bit there on that slide. I'm sorry about that. But tinyurl.com/iSpring23, I have these activities in Google Slides for you. And so if you just be kind enough, it's going to look like this. Here, I'll show you. So it's going to look like this. So what I'd like for you to do if you open it in Google Slides is if you be kind enough to go up here to File and make a copy. And by making a copy, that means you're going to be able to edit it and enjoy it, because currently I just have it on view only, because if I wouldn't have done that, there would have been somebody that would have messed with it, because that's just the way things happen sometimes. So you should be able to go in here and copy and have the copy of the entire presentation. Or if you'd like, I'm completely fine with this as well. You want to have a piece of paper? Grab one of that. You grab one of these things called an ink pen or a pencil, whatever your weapon of choice is, so to speak. Or, you know, if you have an iPad or you have a tablet or something, you want to draw on that, that's completely fine as well. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, we're going to have the time to work on it together, is going back to here. Let's just say hypothetically, you've been asked to maybe develop training for people that aren't signing into their computers correctly. And this was an actual prompt that I have gotten in my career, working in a manufacturing setting. This was something that came in. You need to train them on how to log in appropriately. That may or may not be a training issue. So what I want you to do is take a few moments, work through that. I have some thinking and creative music for you to be inspired by. And you can actually share it with us, or again, as we're going through, we'd love to see what you come up with and share it on social media. Just make sure that you're tagging iSpring in that and use the hashtag as well, so that way you're going to be eligible for the contest. So I've already got you started here. Let me go ahead and I'll turn this down just a little bit. So as you are getting something together, even if you just want to draw one little piece, you can actually share it here live and people can see it, which is really cool. All right. So if you go again to the ahaslides.com/iSpring, what you're already logged into. So I came up with an idea of, how about you have a ring or something that has some kind of a chip that, like, you just scan it and it signs you into everything for the day, because maybe the issue is there's so many different you know, passwords and systems and things like that. And please don't judge my artwork. Okay. I did this for my husband, big Lord of the Rings fan here. But I mean, what about something like this? You know, you have like some kind of like a ring, and then, you know, you have the little "my precious" in there. So, all right, so I'll give you a few moments here to come up with it. Hopefully you are way more creative than I am, but I'll go ahead and play a little bit of music here in the background, just as you're thinking, just again, to get you used to maybe doing this activity. And again, love to see what you come up with. Also going to be trying to watch the chat here on YouTube. So I love this here about the change the default background to a screen showing you how to log in. You really couldn't avoid it then, could you? I mean, it'd be kind of right under your nose. That's a great idea. So maybe that screen when you're trying to log into a computer, that would be a way that you could help them. Absolutely. Wonderful. All right. Give folks a few more moments to put some stuff in here. Hoping I'm not going to be the only one submitting a drawing, but you should also be able to upload a picture. Oh, love it. All right. We already have another one here. Oh, fingerprint logons. Yeah, that's a good idea, right? So may or may not need training for that. Could be an organizational thing that happens. All right. Okay, going back to the chat here on YouTube. Yes, J-Rock, I guess it does kind of look like Baby Yoda. Don't judge me. All right, single sign-on implementation. Yeah, that might be a great way to do it. A quick video. Question about the access code for the AHA Slides is just ahaslides.com/iSpring. All right, so let employees expense a password manager like 1Password. Love that. Yeah, maybe have that password manager help fill that stuff in. Got a second vote for that. Outstanding. What about, oh, got a couple things here for job aids. Excellent. Step-by-step instructions. Yeah, maybe they just need a gentle reminder. All right, I'll give you all just a few more moments here because we have a few more activities to go through, but thank you so much for sharing. Again, didn't want this to be passive, wanted this to be something engaging, giving you an idea to experiment and play a little bit today. Yeah, have prompts directly in the fields that they need to fill in, such as the username and password or email address. Love it. Yeah, set their own fun passwords. Talk to people. Novel idea, right? That doesn't happen enough. Scenario where employee has to answer questions like an inspector. I love that. A little bit of gamification there. Okay. Mini job aid, love it. A funny poster that could be good as well. Cheat sheet, paper documentation, love it. Oh, I love the confidence in this one. Step-by-step cheat sheet. I love it. Okay. All right. I know somebody else is typing. I will keep going here. Jingles that remind people to log in with correct credentials. I love it. Yeah, why not? Right? Maybe have something a little bit sticky. Yeah, or a memorable mnemonic. That can also be excellent as well. Thank you all so much for sharing. Really appreciate that. So as a reminder, please let us see what you came up with on social media. If you drew, share it, tag iSpring in it, tag me in it. I'd love to see it, and make sure that you're using the iSpring Days 23 hashtag to be eligible for the social media contest as well. Okay. So here is another example of what maybe one would look like. Again, this was an actual prompt that we ideated in a role that I had, and I kept a picture of it. Again, please don't judge my poor art, but you can see a couple of different options there that we came up with. And then if you can look really closely, I wrote names down by people that had the exact same idea that I did. So that was also kind of nice to see that there was some uniformity on the different pieces there. Okay. So we talked a little bit about that. Let's talk a little bit about objectivity. Okay. So why would objectivity be a good consulting technique? Well, when we talk about objectivity, we're talking about impartial advice and guidance. All right. Now, the reason that we have an advantage here in learning and development is so often we're removed from the day-to-day of what the work is, right? So you are able a lot of times to uncover things or ask questions that people aren't asking, all right? People get so kind of emotionally invested in the work that they do, or they get in the zone. They don't really think about some of the things that they go through day to day. And so if we're able to come in and bring value and ask these questions, it is going to be a big value add back to the business, because sometimes they just can't see the forest for the trees, right? So making sure that you're getting clarity around these assumptions is good. And also too, triangulation. So making sure that it's not just one person's perspective on things, but you're verifying, hey, is this actually the correct way that we do this? Or is this just what this person says is the correct way? The moment that we only take one person's perspective, that means that we're in the person business, not in the people business. So we want to make sure we're serving people, not just one person, because gosh, can you imagine the time and money that it takes if we just serve one person in the work that we do? We don't want to do that. All right. So to get you thinking about this, to get you thinking about objectivity, got another little mini activity here for you. So go ahead and let me know, what is the best candy and why? So go ahead and let me know what you think there. What is the best candy and why? So go ahead and give you a few moments. I'll also watch the chat here on YouTube if you're not able to participate here. And let me turn the music down a little bit. I like to blast it a little bit. There we go. Okay. What's the best candy and why? I mean, I think we're going to get this. This could get dangerous here. You know, people are very passionate about their candy. Okay. Needs clusters because I said so. See, I love it. Already have the passion coming out. All right. Swedish fish. All right. Snickers satisfies. I love it. Got a couple Snickers there. Gobstoppers. Absolutely. Those are some of my favorites. Skittles. That's a favorite of my husband. Twix. All right. Oh, Reese pumpkins. Yes. Okay. All right. Reese's Easter eggs because it hits different. They do. The pumpkins and the eggs taste different. I'm all in on that. All right. Twix. Oh, here we go. Airheads. Chewy, sweet variety of flavors. Comes in single, small snacking serving. It's a pretty compelling argument. All right. Okay. All right, so a lot of great opinions here. I also love Nerds Clusters. Very good stuff. Looks here in the chat. Robin Smith loves Mounds. That was a favorite of my mom. Abby loves Reese peanut butter cups. We got Virginia loves Red Hots. Absolutely love it. All right, and Miriam loves chocolate. All right, awesome. Okay, so why am I asking you to do this? And do I have sinister thoughts here about knowing your favorite candy and how I can manipulate you? No, but with the conviction that some of you said in this, that's the conviction that we get sometimes in the content that we get, right? And maybe those requests that come in the door have kind of that same conviction. And it's hard to talk about it, right? Or it's hard to kind of second guess it sometimes when somebody's so passionate about it. And so being able to remove that and come again from an objective perspective when we're talking about this, it's really adding value back to the business, right? So it's not saying that we don't want people to be passionate about the work that they do, but we want to make sure that we have clarity around the content that it is that we're using in order to create our learning experiences. All right. So with that, we have our next activity. And so a great way that can help you with objectivity is one of my favorite things. I love this so much. It's called a task analysis, okay? And so what a task analysis is, it actually has people break down the work that they do into various steps, and you're getting more information about it, okay? So I like to call this step the shoes. The empathy, you're getting that perspective of what someone else is going through. All right. So you're immediately asking them, you know, what is it like actually doing this work? What does it look like? A couple other things that I love about a good task analysis is it actually asks people to say out loud that stream of consciousness or that internal dialogue as they're working, right? So as people become experts and as people like gain mastery in the tasks that they do, so often things just become automatic, right? Remember when you first maybe learned how to drive or ride a bicycle? The first few times it was very scary, but then now you can probably just do it and not have that fear, right? So being able to get that out is a great way to use the task analysis. And a couple other things is you can actually ask people, how are people messing this up? And the insights from that are beyond valuable for multiple reasons. One, that's a treasure trove for your assessments that you may build. But second, maybe there's some things that you can expedite up the chain in your organization to say, this is an emerging issue. Maybe we need to get ahead of this. And golly, wouldn't that be a value add back to learning and development if that happened, right? So those are just some of the ways. So if you've never seen a task analysis before, here's an example of one. And shameless plug, this is also directly from my book. So my book is coming out in July. And so there's a little snippet of my book. This is based on conducting a pre-trip check for a semi-truck. And so this would be an example of the step. You inspect lighting devices and reflectors. How do you know that you are doing it right? That's your performance measures. So making sure that the headlights are on, the turn signals are working, you know, et cetera. Tools and equipment, what's needed, knowledge, skills, abilities. That's a little bit information, just like, you know, what's the basic components of a truck? You probably need to know a little bit about it. As far from safety, is there safety issues? Absolutely. Could be, right? You don't want somebody to, unfortunately, you know, get hurt on the side of the road or something. Some decisions. So again, that internal dialogue that people are having with themselves. And then again, my favorite, errors. What happens if you mess it up, or what happens if you skip something, right? So being able to document this helps with objectivity. And just by asking these questions, you will be surprised. A lot of times these questions don't get asked. You know, it's like, oh, well, we've been doing it fine for 50 years. That's wonderful, but wait till it goes sideways, right? So making sure that you have this is really, again, a great value add back to the business, because that way it is documented somewhere and you can crosswalk it to maybe operating procedures, knowledge management documents, et cetera, that the organization may also have. Okay. All right. So if you'd like, we can do another one together here. So this is just a task analysis document here. So you can get the tinyurl.com/iSpring to get you going. And so maybe what we could do is do a task analysis on how to make a storyboard. So as a reminder, this is what it looks like. And if you just be kind enough to, go make a copy, and we'd love to see as you're working on them, some of the things that you put, if you want to put it on social media. Don't forget to use the hashtag iSpring Days 2023 to be eligible as well for the contest. So I'll give you a few moments to do that, and I'd love to see what you come up with. So let me go ahead and get this going here. And let me turn this down again. Sorry, I obviously like loud music today, apparently. So I'll give you a few moments to do that if you want to share your ideas. And I will also be watching the chat. There's a question about getting the slides. Actually, if you sign into the AHA Slides / iSpring, at the end, I'll capture all this in a PDF and I'll send it to you. So sure. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No worries. That's perfectly fine. Just wanted to make sure if somebody could give us a helping hand and just give us a signal about hearing the music. I got some confusion about the music. So if you hear Cara's music, that would be good if you just give us a sign about that. And one more question is about your book. If you don't mind just repeating the name of your book. People in the chat are very excited about it, congratulate you on the release, and they would love to learn more about it. So maybe a quick recap on that.
Sure. So the music thing could definitely be a Cara issue. When I shared my screen, I didn't enable the click, so that's probably me. So I get to hear music in my head, which is
the most important, yeah.
Well, I guess it depends on the day, right? My book, though, is Learning Experience Design Essentials. It comes out in July, and at the end of this presentation, I have a picture of it, and then I also have a QR code if you want to go learn more about it, but it's available for pre-order now. So.
Great. Thank you. So we figured out both issues, I believe, the music and the book. And do you think we're there to continue?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Of course.
All right. So if anybody has any task analysis ideas, you can feel free to share them here on the screen. And I think the one that we came up with was about how to do a storyboard, but just to keep us, somebody is taking it. Thank you. Somebody is going to help me out here and share something. So how do you get started with a storyboard? All right. Oh, Cara, what was the prompts? Yeah, let me just transition back. So how to make a storyboard. So what would be the first step if somebody said, how do you make a storyboard for the work that you do? And there's a lot of different first steps, right? There's a lot of different ways that you would maybe potentially handle that, but just maybe in you and your organization, what would be the first step? Somebody's like, hey, make a storyboard. What would that look like? So go ahead and pop back over here. Yeah, okay. So somebody says, okay, decide the kind of storyboard that you want, visual or text. Okay. All right. Somebody says how to make a sandwich. So maybe they did a task analysis about that. That's actually a great way to learn task analysis. One of the ways when I first learned it was putting together how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. That's pretty common. So yeah, that's a great way to get started thinking about task analysis. If this is a little bit too difficult for first thing, because you're like, I need to relate it back to something a little bit more, non-work related. That's great. Gathering materials, absolutely love it. Oh my gosh, lie on your couch with a pillow over your face. Imagine the learning experience screen by screen. Whoever wrote that, you're my creative spirit animal. I love that. It's a great idea. Yeah, okay. Yeah, do the job. So maybe how do you do the job? Create a scenario. Excellent. All right. Thank you all so much for sharing those. I do want to get to the next activity because we got two more to do. Okay. So if you're curious maybe what this would look like, this is just my quick attempt at it. So this would be maybe the first step of the task analysis for a storyboard, would be just making sure that I know the learning outcomes, whatever that looks like. My performance criteria is making sure that there is alignment, knowledge, skills, ability, tools, making sure that I'm in line with operational data. The time for the step totally depends. I mean, hopefully this is already scoped out for me. However, if it isn't, maybe it's going to take a little bit more time, right? Some internal dialogue that I'd have is, is training really the right thing at this point? Am I speaking to the right people to get clarity on this? And then, of course, some goofs here are, maybe I'm getting bad data, maybe I'm talking to the wrong people, and God forbid I put out a training that wastes everybody's time and money. So that would be some of the stuff there. Okay. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about process improvement. So almost, I'll say they're twins or they're friends, right? The objectivity. Let's talk a little bit about the process improvement. And so the way that I define that is identifying, analyzing, and improving processes. Seems pretty straightforward, right? And so because again, we can be a little bit further removed from the day-to-day, we have incredible insight that you may or may not embrace or may not see, but there's a lot of things that you can see and add value back to the business just by helping deconstruct some of the things that happen day to day. All right. Because I will tell you, one of the easiest ways to gain favor in your organization is by saying that you have eliminated waste in the organization. And when I'm talking about waste, I'm talking about inefficiencies, talking about saving money, talking about saving time, maybe some product development, whatever that means. But if you can demonstrate that you have helped eliminate waste in one side or another, and no matter kind of how small or big it is, that's going to be a huge win for you as well as learning and development too. Additionally, through this, I like to think of this from a voice of a customer, or you may have heard it called VOC, or FaceTime with people. Back many years ago when I was an ID at Amazon, one of the things that I love to do is we would go on these things called gimbal walks. And so I served in customer service. So the folks that handle phone calls, chat support for Amazon customer service. And I loved walking around the center and just talking to people and seeing what their issues were, seeing the things in action. And one thing that I also did at Amazon is they had us make and take phone calls. And I'm very grateful for that, because some of the things that I thought were really great ideas, when I saw it in action, it's like, golly, that could be optimized a little bit better, or golly, that was really hard to kind of navigate and find everything that I needed when I have somebody in my ear yelling at me because their stuffed animal didn't come on time or whatever, right? So it really does kind of help you empathize, but then also getting that clarity and really understanding, okay, what are the nuances of people's jobs? And if people see that you're invested in them and that you care and that you're following up, that can pay dividends for you further down the line with what I'm going to call champions or relational equity. When you're rolling out new initiatives, it's really critical to have that amongst people in your organization. All right, another small little mini activity here. So I'd love to know your thoughts here. Why did the chicken cross the road? But I want you to answer it from the perspective of you want to improve processes for the chicken. So
if you don't mind, Cara, may I play in the shoes of, we are switching shoes here today, right? We are trying to be empathic. I know there are a lot of people from outside the US who may have never heard of this story, joke / line. So it would be interesting as well to hear what people understand under this question if they're outside the US culture. And this is particularly important for you guys not to be thrown back by such a question if you're not in the American cultural context. So once again, it would be really lovely to hear your options, even if you are confused by this question.
Oh, it's a good call out. Thank you so much for adding that. Yeah, it's kind of one of these really, I don't even know if it's a corny joke. I don't even know what you would call it, but it's a very common, I don't know, childhood joke, and there's many different options, right? But I just want to flip this here to say, okay, from a process improvement standpoint, maybe can we deconstruct why is the chicken crossing the road here? And so we got some great answers here, which I love. Maybe the chicken needed some sugar. Maybe that could definitely be it. Being chased by a bigger chicken, absolutely. I love the meethismatch.com date. Maybe it's cluckcluck.com or something. I don't know. Maybe there's a cool name there for a dating site. To avoid the frying pan. Oh goodness, yes. There's a nice twist, maybe to go to Chick-fil-A to get away from the farmer. To recruit other chickens for the upcoming project. All right. I love this one too, because there wasn't a safer way to get to the other side. Okay. Also trying to check the YouTube chat as well. Looks like there was another great call out here about relational equity. And essentially, again, what I mean there is just building relationships across the organization with other stakeholders. In my role when I was in manufacturing, I was able to really build some good relational equity with our engineering team. And that was incredible for me further down the line when we implemented a new onboarding program. They were able to remove a lot of barriers for me and help expedite some of the stuff that I didn't even see that we needed at the time. But because I had a good relationship with them, they were able to do some of that work for us, which was wonderful. All right, so chicken didn't the chicken crossed the road because it didn't see another way. I love that too, Alicia. That's a good call out here on YouTube. Find more food, working on a couch to 5K. I love it. So you all are, again, very creative here, but I just wanted you to think about this in a different way from a process improvement standpoint, because again, as learning development professionals, you probably inherently have a lot of these skills already, but you just probably never thought about bringing them out in order to, again, support your business a little bit better. All right, I'll move on here. So a way that you can practice this is something called a fishbone diagram, fishbone. So I'm going to keep with the animal references here. And so what a fishbone diagram does is it really helps to define what is the root cause of a problem. Now you're going to get throughout your career, if you haven't already, so much, I would say, content and request of train people on X when it truly is not a training issue. All right. So like, for example, things where one person misbehaves, one person doesn't clock in appropriately, something like that, those one-off situations, that's a great example. Often those just need to be performance conversations between leadership and that person. You'll find often people don't like to do that in the workplace. They're like, oh, well, that one person messed up. Let's just do a blanket training and just train everybody to make sure that they're doing it. Well, how about we have a conversation and understand maybe why someone didn't clock in appropriately? Maybe was there an issue with the time clock? Maybe did they forget their badge? Like what are some of the issues here at play? You really can't make a determination just off of one little thing. Going back to what we talked about a little bit earlier around triangulation, right? We want to make sure that we're getting as much information as possible to make good decisions. Also, fishbone diagrams really help you, again, go back to beyond the content, what's the problem we're trying to solve here? And what is it that we want people to do? And then you can also see maybe some potential efficiencies as you're doing a fishbone diagram. All right. So if you're wondering what one of these look like, here's an example. So let's just say hypothetically you have decreased sales revenue in your organization. So I just filled in some of these. So you could have equipment, process, people, or policy issues with that. So maybe it's something with the policy. Maybe the pricing's a little too high, or maybe people aren't able to return the product in a timely manner. And maybe there's an issue there. Maybe there's an issue with the equipment. Maybe there's issues with the fulfillment. Maybe there's issues with maybe customers are giving a lot of bad reviews and maybe people don't want to purchase from them anymore, right? So there's a lot of different information here that you can really distill down. So what I'd like to do is give you an opportunity to practice with a fishbone diagram. And so same deal, you can either scan the QR code, or it's going to be that exact same link that we've been giving there for the tinyurl.com/iSpring23 is the link to that. And you should be able to pull something like this up. And so this is our third slide here. And yeah, so I just started one. If you want to do a different one, that's completely fine. So why people aren't accessing standard operating procedures. So I drew mine and I have to say, I enjoyed giving mine angry eyebrows and some teeth, but you can see there, why aren't people accessing standard operating procedures? A lot of different options there, right?
Wow, Cara, it's amazing. And you're trying to humiliate yourself with those artistic skills. They're amazing. I would have never thought of drawing an eyebrow to a fish.
Yeah, I was feeling a little extra, they recently got their eyebrows laminated and they wanted to show it off. All right. So they've been on TikTok a little too much and was inspired, but so cool. Yeah. Okay. So I just want to give you a chance to experiment with that. And if you would like to also maybe share which you can either maybe put in the chat here if you want to share, but I also added it here to the screen so you can see it there a little bit better as well. So sorry, my handwriting's a little bit messy, but that's okay. But yeah, so you can share that. And then I also put a really nice corny joke in there for you. So my fish looks mad, but is fed up with its workload. It really should scale back. So give you a few moments here to share a little bit about what were some of the things that maybe you put in your fishbone diagram as you're working on it. Again, if you put the full thing together, we'd love to see it on social media, share it, tag us in it. We'd love to see what you come away with it. So I'll give folks just a minute or two to share some of the things that they would put in their fishbone diagram if they were asked, hey, why are people using the standard operating procedures of the work that we're working on? So give you a few moments to put that together. And I can hear the music in my head, but I know you can't. So
perfect. Great. There is another new hashtag that was born in the chat called sexy fish brows.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. And I love Holly's pun here about the fishbone can help hook your learner. I love that. Great idea too.
Exactly.
Oh, there's a good idea.
Which one?
Accessibility. Maybe the standard operating procedures aren't in a place that's easy to find. Absolutely. That definitely could be it. Give you all just another moment or two for this. Yeah. Oh, accessibility is another one. Great. Yeah. So it could be issues with that for sure. A lot of times I find that they aren't up to date often. So, environmental problem. They're not educational. Oh, look. All right. Somebody put their fishbone in here. Thank you so much for sharing. I love it. So they said equipment, process, and people. So people, this is the way that it's always been done, not specific for the SOP stating what the process is maybe, and then not enough tooling to complete the job. Thank you so much for sharing. That makes me so happy to see one of our fish bones in here. All right. Excellent. And so 6 procedures. Yeah, that happens a lot too, right? There's so many different versions of things. Version control can become a nightmare at sometimes. Yeah. Too complex, maybe documented, but not clearly understand. Okay. All right. We're going to wrap up with the one that you've probably been waiting for and something that doesn't really get enough attention. I want to talk about moving the needle. And I'll never forget this. This was in 2021. It was my annual performance review. I was a senior technical training manager at a manufacturing site. And the person I reported into was our senior director of operations, which was the number 2 person at our facility. And I learned so much working under that person because they had a keen sense of operations and business. And they asked me a question I have never been asked before. And it was this: when is your training team going to be more proactive versus reactive? It's a tough question to answer, right? I was like, it's like, do you know how much we have on our plate? But he didn't want to hear the excuses, right? He wanted to make sure that we were in line, in lockstep with what the business needed. And so I want to spend some time talking to you a little bit about how you can get a little bit better with that, because you don't want to have that same question posed to you like it was me. Luckily, again, my supervisor's like, yep, let's get you plugged into some of the operational data. We'll go through it. And that was really helpful. But you may not have the same experience that I had. So again, what are we talking about? Going from reactive to proactive, right? So instead of sitting and waiting for somebody to come with a project, like how can you get ahead of the curve with some of the things? So really what you're wanting to do is what I want to say, lead the charge. Okay. So really looking at the enterprise, looking across departments and thinking about how you can advocate for change in small ways. One thing that I really am proud that I implemented in that role is I started making sure that all of our media was captioned. Now, no one asked me to, no one said that we needed this, but as just a small change, I started to roll out, and it ended up being very well received because in the plant that I worked at, sometimes people had access to these headphones, sometimes they didn't, right? So we couldn't always assume that they had speakers. And so a lot of people said, oh, love captions. Thank you so much for putting that in there. So that's a nice way to, again, lead the charge, implement a little bit of change and make things a little bit better. And then also the historical data. So how have things changed over time? What are risks to the org? And how's that going to line up in maybe 1, 2, 3, and 5 years. Now, I want to be very clear here. I'm not just talking about your internal data. You also need to stay abreast of what's going on outside of your organization as well. So one thing that I like to do is I like to sign up for legal alerts. So I don't know if you all know this, but just this week in the United States, there's been a couple of pretty big changes on the compliance front. So for example, I have a client that services folks in New York State. New York State is changing their compliance laws around sexual harassment training. And so what I'm going to need to do is go in and make sure that their compliance training is up to the new standards. And if not, we need to make some adjustments. Another thing over here on this other side is something about, somebody has an EEOC claim about pronouns in the workplace. And so, these are two things that are, I will say, emerging if they're not already kind of implemented in your organizations. But if you're really wanting to add value back to your business, you got to stay on top of this stuff and expedite and let your leadership know, hey, you know what, the laws are changing around this, or have we determined what our policies are going to be on this? Do not wait for that to just happen to you. If you can advocate for this, easy way to add value back to the business, because gosh, they're on it. They're checking these things for me and making sure that we're up to the standards that we need to be. So speaking of that, I'd love to know currently, what are some of the things that you keep up with, whether that's an internal or external metric or source? Go ahead and share with me here in the AHA slides or the chat. I would also like to know what your thoughts are on that, because I venture to say we're going to get a lot of different sources here, but it's something that we really need to think about and really own, because it is our responsibility to be on top of that, to make sure that our organizations stay in compliance. So yeah, Karen, I think that's a great call out here about lots of IDs think that their jobs end on training once it's been designed and implemented. Yeah, it's true. But going back to kind of my original statement around all of the tools out there that is making content creation a little bit, I say, easier and more accessible. The elephant in the room obviously is ChatGPT. Do you really want to go toe-to-toe with something like that, or do you really want to expand and add value back? So that's kind of the perspective that I'm coming from. Yeah, Melissa, it's also a good call out about there's a lot of resources. It's hard to pick the accurate ones. Yeah. So got some great ones here. Policy Central, quality assurance, training, information retention. Love that. Got some different podcasts, some safety risks, DEIs, professional license, scope of practice. Excellent. Love seeing this. Thank you, Clea. You're sweet. I appreciate that kind word on YouTube. LinkedIn quality standards. Yep. Satisfaction of voluntary e-learning offering. Love that as well. Give you all just a few more moments here to put some things in. Yeah. Oh, love that. What's bugging you now? That's a great question. Yeah, see where people's heads are. See kind of what's taking their time and attention. That is wonderful. Appreciate that. All right, what else we got here? Got a couple more coming in. Give you all just another moment, and then we'll wrap up with our last little piece, and then send you on your way to continue the incredible iSpring stays. And as a reminder, if you want copies of all this, make sure that you're signed in, and then at the end, I'll PDF it and send it to everybody so you have it. All right. LinkedIn movers and shakers. Okay. Oh, you're welcome, Holly. I appreciate that. Employee engagement. Yep. Results. All right. Give just one more moment because I see somebody type in. Don't want to cut them off. Maybe. Did you all hear about the new corduroy pillowcases? They're really making headlines. Sorry, had to have a corny joke. Okay. Be connected with executive leadership, as goals and strategies may not always funnel down. Absolutely. All right. Yeah. Feedback to inform changes in curriculum. Thank you all. Appreciate those. All right. So I want to introduce you to something that you may or may not have thought about. But one thing that I was challenged on in that role that I am so glad that I was, and a huge takeaway that I have is building a control tower. And when I talk about control tower, what I'm talking about is just a dashboard of metrics that you are just basically keeping track of. And it can be a combination of internal and external metrics. And by keeping this, it really does hold you accountable to the business. But then if you get called out or asked a question about different things, you have it in one-stop shop. So that way it doesn't take you a long time to generate a report and figure things out. And the sooner you can kind of think and build this, I mean, the better it's going to be, not only for transparency for learning development back to the business, but also just to get a snapshot of kind of how you're doing in the learning and development space. Okay, so
Cara, sorry to interrupt you. I really, really am very sorry. It's just about 6 minutes left until the end of the session. So I was wondering if you wanted to take some questions afterwards. It's good to keep this in mind.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So here's an example of what I based my control tower off of. I have scrubbed all the information, but in the manufacturing facility, we have these everywhere. And these are just kind of these one-stop shop boards where everyone knew what was going on at all times. So like, what are some of the big priorities that we have? What are some of the constraints? The opportunity log, so people were able to add in things that they wanted to see happen, various different metrics there. So I loved this, and I basically took this and then kind of, I'll say, changed it a little bit. So I'll show you an example of what that looks like. So here were on the purple some examples of the business metrics that were captured in the control tower, and the blue is how I transformed it to L&D. Okay, so I'll just highlight a couple here. One would be work in progress, or what they call WIP. All right, so that in manufacturing is units in progress and the time it takes to finish. So I wanted to track, okay, how many projects do we have in process, and how long is it taking us to finish it as well? All right, a couple other ones here that I want to call out is the constraints. What's holding us back? What are some of the things that we're dealing with? That's a great question to ask, as well as plan, do, act. What are we doing to make sure that we are iterating and we are improving as well? All right. So unfortunately, we don't have time to do this together, but I look forward to seeing these on social media. I've given you a starter for your own little control tower if you want to build that out. You can use the same ones, or if you want to swap them all out, you most certainly can as well.
It feels like you've built a foundation for this control tower.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. So wrapping up, if you are wondering, okay, what are some steps that I can take to apply this? So one thing you might want to ask yourself is, okay, based on today's conversation, where would you say your consulting skills are? And if you're just getting started, wonderful. You're seasoned, wonderful. Just maybe take inventory of it. I encourage you to maybe try a method that we talked about today, or if you want to do your own additional research and try a different version of it, please feel free to do so. And most importantly, share the results. There's a lot of people that could really learn from you working out loud and sharing your journey on this. With that, if you'd like to get in contact with me, easiest way is LinkedIn and Twitter. I do also have a YouTube channel, Unfiltered ID. There's my email address, my personal website, and my business website. And then available July 11th. If you like this content, there's more in Learning Experience Design Essentials, and there's a QR code if you'd like to pre-order from Amazon. But with that, I'm happy to take some questions.
Fantastic. Great. I'm very, very glad that we have had this session, as well as the other participants. I can see that 300 people remain super active in our chat, exchanged their opinions, and laughed like crazy at your jokes. Cara, this was fantastic. Really, really helpful and applicable, as the guys said. So I have a lot of questions on these legal issues. Actually, this seemed to be the most burning question for most of people. So a link to this legal alert site, or can you point us to the best legal alerts? I'm in Colorado and just searched Colorado business legal alerts. So it seems like a lot of people are concerned about this. So maybe you could just say a couple of words about this.
Sure. So I'd say one place you could start is a website called LexisNexis. They have a lot of great content that you can do. A couple of newsletters that I subscribe to. There's one called HR Brew, BREW, HR Brew. They usually have some kind of a legal thing that you can do. But honestly, a lot of local lawyers close to me, like they have newsletters that you can sign up for. And so I sign up to some of those and just kind of glean that as well. So you certainly don't have to be a legal expert, but at least being informed about some of the things that are taking place, even at your local level or even your national level of your country, is really critical when you think about the complexities of some of our training topics that we have.
Right. Thank you so very much. I can see that Holly's doing a great job typing for all of us these websites. It's just amazing and fantastic. And for those who kept asking me about that, once again, I think it's the best if you repeat that on your own. These slides are available from AHA Slides. If you just type in AHA Slides / iSpring, I believe, is that correct?
There you go. Yep.
Exactly. And then the copy will be with you and you can use all of this amazing, fantastic tools that Cara was speaking about. We have only 1 minute, Cara, and I'll probably ask you one last question. Out of everything that you've pointed out today, tons of very helpful content, which one idea you would like the participants to take away from your session?
I think just be curious, right? Continue to innovate, continue to learn yourself. If you're in this business, Mike Taylor said this, and I love it. It is your job to be a professional learner. And so the way that you can innovate and grow is really critical as well, because if you're asking for people's time and attention in the things that you create, you also need to make sure that you are your best version of yourself, not only for you, but also for the organizations and people that you serve.
Thank you so much. I love this emphasis on the community and on the organizational help, that on the impact for the organization, on the help for the organization. And I also appreciate all these fantastic tools that definitely helped us stay very energized. I myself was a very big fan of those Sealy 8. So thank you so very much, Carrie. This was definitely one of the most exciting sessions. I'm sure for today and for tomorrow it will be as well. Are you staying with us for a little more for the other speakers?
I am. I'm looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Thank you so very much, Cara. And then we'll proceed to the other session. And I'm very, very excited to introduce our next speaker.